Guys, I'm going to be honest. I sort of wish that I'd never played Hollow Knight, or at least wasn't aware of the fact that Silksong was a thing before the very moment I saw it on Steam. And before you come for me, let me explain. I first played Hollow Knight from the comfort of my second-year bedroom when I was in university. It wasn't the first Metroidvania I'd played, but it was certainly the one that left a lasting impact. When I eventually clawed my way through to the end, although it took a little longer than I'd probably ever admit, I was met with a satisfaction that I hadn't felt from games in the same vein before. Although I would have loved to continue slashing my way through bugs and dying time and time again to the same boss, I wasn't immediately begging to continue the adventure in some sort of sequel. But as the days and weeks passed, Hollow Knight never really left my thoughts. After picking up a few Metroidvanias, I realised that they weren't quite scratching the itch that Hollow Knight did. I craved delving back underground into a dingy setting filled with bugs which would frustrate me without putting me off playing entirely. By the time I found out about Silksong, I was already under the Team Cherry spell. I wasn't as far down the rabbit hole as some people were. I'm looking at you, Silksong subreddit. But it was a game that I was looking forward to, and yes, I was naive enough to watch each showcase wondering if it would make a surprise appearance. Although it did take a backseat as each year passed since its first announcement, I still longed for the day that we'd at least have a release date. If you cut forward 6 years later when Team Cherry suddenly announced that a Silksong announcement would be taking place in a few days, before sharing the groundbreaking news that the game would actually launch in 2 weeks, and this love of Hollow Knight is immediately alight again like setting fire to a Christmas tree. And I wasn't the only one who felt this either. I'm pretty sure a lot of players paused for a moment to accept the fact that 6 years of insanity and flooding every stream chat with questions of where it is would finally come to an end. It didn't take long for that fateful day to arrive, and after battling with Steam for what felt like an absolute eternity, seriously, it must have taken me about 2 hours to finally get through the payment process and snag my own copy, which was made a lot more frustrating by the knowledge of hundreds and thousands of people already playing, but regardless, I had it finally and downloaded it in an instant. Most importantly, I wouldn't have to look at any of the Steam error code monsters ever again. Playing Silksong for the first time glimmered with the familiarity of Hollow Knight, but I can't lie, it felt utterly surreal too. I was excited, but also incredibly wary of the fact that the game might not live up to the year's worth of anticipation we just worked our way through. I was desperate to absolutely love it, but worried about the disappointment I'd feel if I just didn't. It was easy for this feeling to fade into the background as I entered Farloom for the first time and started swinging my needle around the Moss Grotto, luckily. But each time I closed the game, I still had a little voice in the back of my head, double and triple checking that I am actually enjoying myself and not just saying that. I want to say it now so no one is unclear, but Silksong is a good game. It's beautifully designed, the boss fights are engaging and somehow drive you to keep fighting even though you feel like you'll never defeat them, and I was genuinely bewildered by the sheer size of the map. Even as someone who usually scours every single corner for any secrets, I feel like it would have taken me an eternity to do so. Combat feels fluid, although it's a little finicky to get used to when I first started playing. It's refreshing to have a bunch of new skills and tools too, rather than recycling things that the Knight had in the previous game. You've still got the essential things like a dash, and a lot of the attacks are similar despite having a different weapon entirely, but it's clear that everything has been carefully thought out to make Hornet feel like not only a skilled hunter, but a particularly acrobatic one at that. There were boss fights and enemy interactions that genuinely made me feel cool, which is always a gold star in my books. There's nothing like pogoing off an enemy and sort of somersaulting through the air before delivering another perfectly timed hit to help make you feel like the most skilled person ever when it comes to video games. However, the thing I loved most about Silksong wasn't anything to do with the story or combat. I just absolutely loved the characters that you meet along the way. It's unsurprising for anyone who knew me when I first played Hollow Knight, as my love for all of the songs characters sing as you wander around, as well as the fantastic designs for each and every one, didn't go unappreciated. I had the initial pang of missing them in Silksong, but I'll be honest, that didn't last long once Sherma started singing her little song at the gate. Now I've shared my most loved part, I think you can all sympathise with my least favourite element. Boss fights, especially the ones that have a bench approximately half a map away from the arena, just don't feel all that rewarding. At first I figured this was just because I was in early areas and they couldn't dish out high value rewards straight away. But after entering arena after arena throughout each act, it was as if the chances of getting a super valuable reward were rapidly decreasing, and the strength of each enemy rapidly shooting up in the opposite direction. Hollow Knight was never an easy game. Even though it's been years since I played, I remember a few boss battles in particular taking me hours to get through. The Mantis Lords in particular is one that I struggled with, and will occasionally still wake me up in cold sweats at night. But it was well worth putting myself through that frustration, as the Mantis enemies wouldn't attack me once I'd earned the respect of their overlords by taking out each one. Having fought the Bell Beast first, after Moss Mother of course, I expected a lot of the bosses to offer something similar, but they just didn't, which led to me skipping quite a few of the optional bosses as I progressed, rather than throwing myself into each and every one like I would have in Hollow Knight. They don't even drop rosaries, despite stealing all of mine each time I clumsily jump into an attack rather than dodging it. It feels wrong to hold a comparison so close between the two games, because Silksong is its own entity really, rather than a direct sequel to Hollow Knight, which is what we were all led to believe it would be. Seeing them both as their own thing, rather than going in ready to be as amazed as I was with the first game, would definitely have made me appreciate Hornet's story a lot more. This would have been a lot easier to do if I hadn't been so involved with the Silksong community prior to its release too. I don't dislike Silksong, in fact rather the opposite. I genuinely think it's an incredible game, but I would be lying if I didn't say that the hype surrounding its launch impacted the experience of it in one way or another. Because of how much I feel like I pushed myself to love it, nitpicking the parts I didn't like and the parts that really frustrated me became more intense, not to mention how much it felt like I was constantly racing to keep up with my friends or the thousands of people posting about it online. As a result, the expectations that I set for it were far too high, which is even more confusing given I didn't really know what expectations I needed to set in the first place. It's the only time I've really let a community of people simply excited for a game's release impact my own experience, so it's not something you really need to know how to stop. At least, not before it's too late and all of this has already wormed its way into your brain. You might be sitting there thinking, well, just don't care about what other people think or don't listen to what they're saying, but guys, it's literally my job to care about what other people think or are saying about a game. If you spent any time online over the last 6 years, the chances of you seeing something Silksong related, especially during announcement season, is easily 100%. The second you're involved in a community, it begins. If I could go back in time and let my younger self enjoy Hollow Knight and then live blissfully unaware of Silksong until it suddenly appeared on my Steam page, I would. I'd probably go into it feeling the exact same whimsy and glee, the same frustrations as well, obviously, as I did when I first played Hollow Knight. If you've stumbled across this video without playing Silksong, or Hollow Knight for that matter, then I do think you should at least give the new release a go. The best thing for me to do, having journeyed through Silksong for long enough, is to just let it sit for a little bit. After all, I didn't immediately feel the need to go back into Hollow Knight and continue playing once I'd finished my time with it anyway. Silksong inevitably will be the sort of game that slowly consumes you, regardless of your experience with the previous game or its hype. I don't doubt in a few months I'll be able to play Silksong and enjoy it to its full capacity once I've sat and thought about the adventure that I've already been on. I really don't mind waiting either. It's not like it took me 6 years to get here in the first place. Haha. Right? Let me know in the comments what you think of Hollow Knight Silksong so far if you've been playing, or if you're not, let me know why you stopped here at least, because I don't know if I'd watch a random girl do a video essay on a game that I don't care about. That's all from me!